Okay, let's get right into it. We're breaking down the incredibly high-stakes nuclear talks between the United States and Iran. Now, this is a situation that seems to shift by the hour, but we're going to unpack exactly what's going on, why the tension is just so high, and what could possibly happen next.
And right away, we hit this massive contradiction. On the surface, hearing that talks are back on, that sounds like great news, right? A diplomatic breakthrough. But dig just a little deeper, and you'll find that many analysts are actually warning that the risk of a real military conflict is going up, not down. So how on earth can that be? Let's get into it.
So first things first, let's look at the breaking news that, at least at first glance, seems like a really positive step in the right direction.
After a long, tense period where things were really escalating, we have an official statement from Iran. They've confirmed that talks will in fact happen. This comes right after President Trump also signaled that he was hopeful for a deal, one that could avoid any military action.
But, and this is a big but, this yes from Iran is not a blank check. Not at all. The Iranian president has laid out some very specific conditions that demand to be free from threats. Well, that's a pretty clear shot at the massive U.S. military buildup happening in the Gulf. And being free from unreasonable expectations, that phrase, well, that gets right to the heart of the entire problem.
And this is where everything starts to get really complicated. Because the two sides aren't even agreeing to talk about the same thing. They're basically showing up to the table with two completely different playbooks. And here it is, the crucial point. Iran wants a very narrow, focused negotiation. They want to talk about one thing, their nuclear program. And in exchange, they want the crippling economic sanctions lifted. The US, on the other hand, is pushing for a much broader deal. They're saying, sure, we'll talk nuclear, but we also have to talk about your ballistic missiles and your support for allies and militant groups all across the region. To really get a sense of how huge this gap is, listen to this. An expert on the region, Professor Firas from the London School of Economics, puts the American demands in pretty stark terms. He says that if Iran actually agreed to all of these points, it would basically be a surrender, a total humiliation that could even mean the end of the regime. And that explains everything, doesn't it? For Iran, their ballistic missile program isn't seen as an offensive weapon, it's their main deterrent. It's what they believe stops them from being attacked. And the regional alliances, that's a cornerstone of their entire foreign policy. So from their perspective, in Tehran, those two things are just not up for discussion, period. So you might be wondering, why are they so rigid about this? Why this deep hesitation to talk about anything beyond the nuclear file? Well, to understand that, you really have to look at a history of profound distrust. And look, we're not talking about ancient history here. The source of this really deep-seated suspicion is rooted in some very recent events that have totally shaped how Iran is approaching these new talks. I mean, you only have to look back to last June to see why. The US and Iran were in a pretty similar spot. They had a round of talks scheduled, a date was set, but then on the very eve of those talks, the US launched a bombing campaign against Iranian nuclear facilities. For Iran, that was the ultimate betrayal. It confirmed their worst fears, that the US simply can't be trusted. The fallout from that incident was immediate and strategic. A top Iranian military commander came out publicly and said, essentially, we learned our lesson. He said they'd responded too slowly before and have now officially shifted their military doctrine from what he called a defensive posture to an offensive strategy. They're sending a clear signal. We will not be caught off guard again. So you take that history, you combine it with these completely conflicting agendas, and it brings us to the razor's edge where we are today. All these factors are coming together to create an incredibly dangerous moment. So what is the actual probability of this tipping over into a full-blown military conflict? According to Professor Firas, the expert we heard from earlier, the risk of war is real, and it is alarmingly high. He puts the chances at a 6 or even a 7 out of 10. I mean, just let that sink in. That is a truly sobering assessment of how volatile the situation is right now. And that is exactly why these upcoming talks, which are expected to happen in Turkey, are being watched so closely. The feeling among many observers is that this isn't just another round of diplomacy. As Professor Firas puts it, this could very well be the last chance to de-escalate before someone makes a major miscalculation.
So this is where we're left. This is the critical question, isn't it? Are we watching a genuine final opening for peace?
Or is one side fatally underestimating the other's resolve, creating the perfect storm for a miscalculation that could plunge the entire region into a devastating war? The whole world is holding its breath, waiting for the answer.